Hi guys, so in this video I will talk about taking care of your Blackwater aquarium. About 2 years ago I've made a similar video, but I believe that ever since my knowledge and my experience with Blackwater aquarium maintenance has improved, so I've decided to share a few more tips with you that hopefully will be useful for you if you decide to create a Blackwater aquarium in your home. So for those of you who are not familiar with what Blackwater is, I'll give a bit of an introduction. So Blackwater naturally occurs in many different areas around the world, most typically in the Amazon region, but also in Southeast Asia, in sub-Saharan Africa, and that's where a lot of the fish that we keep in aquariums actually originate from. The reason why this water has this color, because it has a lot of tannins, it has a lot of humic acids. In the case of aquarium, we can't really imitate humic acids to the same degree that they will be present in the natural biotope, in the natural habitat, but nevertheless we can imitate a similar degree of tannins, so we can make this water look brownish and kind of a yellowish, but brownish is more preferable. So if you wonder what are the benefits of Blackwater aquariums, well, I can think of 3 major benefits, but there's certainly more of them. So the first one, because of the amount of humic acids and because of the amount of tannins in this water, it has a lot of antibacterial properties, so bacterial infections are not that likely to occur in Blackwater as compared to clear water, for example. So the second benefit is that you're not very likely to have algae in your Blackwater aquarium. The reason being is that it's really hard for algae to survive in these tannin-rich acidic conditions. I used to have some plants that were heavily affected by algae, for example that Amazon sword plant that I have in the corner. It used to have lots of black-beard algae, but after I planted it in this Blackwater system, all the algae was just gone, because most of the algae just incapable of surviving in these Blackwater conditions. So the third benefit is that a lot of fish that we keep in our aquariums, they actually originate from Blackwater habitats. Well, lots of tetra species, lots of Corydoras, apistogramma, lots of cichlids like discus or angelfish, they originally live in Blackwater systems. When you add them to these Blackwater aquariums, they would feel themselves much more comfortable. For example, I have my Corydoras breeding here, I think several times per week, and they have eggs on lots of glasses because they really enjoy these conditions. So the first and probably the most important thing about maintaining your Blackwater system is water itself. To start with, you need to use soft water in your Blackwater aquarium. If your tap water is not sufficiently soft, you will probably have to use remineralized reverse osmosis water, but in my case my tap water is quite soft and quite acidic, so I don't really have to use reverse osmosis. And in case of my fish tank, I have pH at about 5.6 and conductivity below 100 ppm, so it's around like 80 ppm. Very low content of minerals in water, and it's also very acidic because I add a lot of botanicals to the water. So in my case it works naturally by just using tap water and adding botanicals, but if you have hard water in your tap, you will probably have to use reverse osmosis in order to create this soft water. A big question that a lot of you thinking to start with a Blackwater aquarium probably have is how to actually create this Blackwater condition. Obviously after each water change you will remove this water and you have to replenish it with black water in order for it to remain with the same level of tannins. So I'm certainly using here some botanicals. I'm actually using here 4 types of botanicals. I'm using oak leaves, which I collect myself. I'm using catappa leaves. I'm using magnolia leaves and alder cones. I replenish this leaf litter bed every week, so eventually it will just decay and it will get sucked into my external canister filter. I will talk about equipment in a moment. To replenish that leaf litter bed, I will add a few leaves, like 2 or 3 leaves every week when I do a water change, and I throw in a few alder cones. They certainly leach quite a lot of tannins, but they will not be sufficient to create this black water. I use a different technique to maintain this black water. Of course, you can buy a commercially available black water extract, which I've done before, but I no longer use these commercial products basically because they are not very economic to use. Most of these black water extracts, you really need to add a lot of it every week in order to have actually proper black water, and just doesn't worth the money to buy these things when you can use other methods. So right now I'm gonna show you how I create my black water, so let's go. To create black water, I'm using rooibos tea. It's also called red bush tea, and it's quite readily available. You can also find, this is a loose tea, loose leaf tea, but you can also find it in tea bags, so you can use tea bags if it's easier for you. And so I will boil this tea right now. Well, so I'm usually preparing my black water in this type of water canister, water can. It currently has about 25 liters of filtered tap water, and I'm gonna add this rooibos tea inside. You can see water changing its color, and this is how black I want it to be. So the tea will settle down to the bottom of the can over time, and it will get slightly darker a bit later, but yeah, this is how dark I want it to be, slightly brownish color. It shouldn't be too black or too dark. So the other important thing about maintenance of your black water aquarium is stability. Clearly, a large water change, even if you do it just once per week, can offset the balance of this tank. So it can move the pH either up or down, it can move acidity, it can move softness, hardness of the water. That's why I'm trying not to do any significantly large water changes on this system. I would change about this much, possibly like 10% once per week, by adding the water that I prepare myself with the rooibos tea. And because this is an open top tank, quite a bit of that water evaporates, so I usually just add some of my black water, maybe like once per week or so, and usually I get that much of evaporation per week. And these are the only water changes that I'm doing on this tank. The next thing that I want to talk about is plants in your black water system. Well, you will clearly have no problem maintaining floating plants like water lettuce or Amazon frogbeet and this type of plants that float on the surface. And you will have no problem with keeping riparian plants like all the plants I have here. And I will talk about what's inside in a moment. But it might be slightly challenging to actually keep aquatic plants in your black water aquarium because they won't get enough light. That's one of the issues. The other issue, which is certainly a much bigger issue, that not all aquatic plants will actually thrive in this soft water acidic conditions. I know that echinodorus plants Amazon sort plants, various species of echinodorous plants. They can handle soft and acidic water, and they can thrive in these conditions. So I've been experimenting with different species of echinodorous plants, and I'll take you through all these plants that I have in here. Some of them are thriving, others not so much. So it's a bit of a trial and error when you add plants into your Blackwater aquarium, but you have to keep in mind two things. Your plants should have enough light. In my case, this is a relatively shallow tank, so most of the plants that are there, they get enough light because the tank is shallow. If you have a taller Blackwater tank, it's likely that anything that's on the bottom or in the lower part of the aquarium simply will not get enough light. The other issue is softness. You need to use the plants that can stand soft water, soft and acidic water. Another thing that we need to keep in mind when we keep aquatic plants in Blackwater is that Blackwater is usually nutrient deficient. So just like any soft water system, it doesn't have enough nutrients, it doesn't have enough minerals for the plants to thrive. So in order for your plants to thrive, to survive, you really need to fertilize them. I'm using some TNC complete fertilizer once per week, and I'm also adding some root tubs in sand for plants like echinodorus to survive, because they're heavy root feeders and they need something in their root system to get nutrition. Before I take you on a brief tour of my Blackwater aquarium, I want to talk a bit about filtration. So, do you actually need filtration in a Blackwater tank? Clearly, you should never use charcoal filtration or any sort of filtration media that will remove anything from the water, because charcoal will basically remove all the tannins. It will make your water clear, and it will defeat the purpose of using Blackwater in your fish tank in the first place. So when it comes to biological filtration, we all know that beneficial nitrifying bacteria do not really work in soft water, in water softer than pH 6.0 or something like that, definitely lower than this. And so there is no point of using biological filtration in your Blackwater tank. There is also no point of using biological filtration in your Blackwater tank, because most likely those plants, for example, riparian plants that you grow in your Blackwater system, and most likely you would want to grow some riparian plants because it looks natural, they will take care of the biological side of things. So they will remove ammonia, and they will remove nitrites and nitrates. So most likely you don't need any biological filtration in your Blackwater system, but you certainly need mechanical filtration, because a lot of the leaf litter that you have on your bottom will be eventually decaying, and you need to mechanically remove this decaying matter. So using a relatively powerful mechanical filter should help you to deal with that issue. So now I will take you on a brief tour of my Blackwater aquarium. I'm going to explain what type of plants I have in here, what type of equipment, and which fish do I keep here. So this is a 80 centimeter, a bit over 3 feet long fish tank. It's 140 liter fish tank, but as you can see, it's not filled to the top. It's filled only a bit over the half of the tank, so possibly it has about 100 liters of water. The reason why I don't fill it to the top, partly because I have some riparian plants, emerged riparian plants, but also because I want to imitate natural seasons in the Amazon, dry season and wet season. So now we currently have dry season. Here the water level is low. Sometimes I will add it to this level, which will imitate wet season. So some of these plants will be submerged partially underwater. Yeah, I think it works nice that way. In terms of equipment, I actually have here quite a lot of lighting. I have here 4 different LED lamps. They're all no brand, relatively cheap LED lamps, but they do the job well. I also have here one spotlight, but it's just decorative. It doesn't add much in terms of lighting. I have here a pump, a circulation pump. That's an Eheim 300 compact own pump. and you can't really see it because I've hidden it really well. It's under the driftwood, but it provides some water flow, some very gentle water flow. So because in areas like this in the wild you wouldn't be expected to have too much water flow, so that just to move things around. I keep temperature here at about 26 degrees Celsius because of the fish that I have here, and I have here a heater. You won't be able to see it, it's hidden in the back. I also have here a canister filter, that's a Heim Classic 250. It's only filled with sponges for mechanical filtration, and I actually use it for two purposes. This first one is mechanical filtration, because I need a powerful filter to remove decaying plant matter, to remove decaying leaf litter matter from the bottom. I also need it to create this sort of a waterfall effect over there that flows through the roots of some of the plants, for example through the roots of fern, through the roots of Phytonia, and through that moss on the driftwood. So that keeps these plants growing. On the bottom here I have a layer of natural brown river sand. It's relatively fine but semi-coarse, I would say. In those parts where I have rooted plants, I add some root sticks in sand to provide some nutrition for these plants. So over here I have Echinodorus polyfolius. Well, it's doing more or less okay, this one. I have another polyfolius in the back, and it actually grows much better. You can see it's dried up leaves popping up here, and I used to have it in a different tank before, so the leaves are dried up, but hopefully here it's going to grow better. Here I have large Echinodorus blairii, Amazon sword plant, and it grows really well in here. It gets enough light and it apparently likes this location. There are smaller Echinodorus blairies in here. These are Helantium bolivianum, which is also known as Echinodorus magdalensis. It's sort of a carpeting plant, and it's not doing well actually. I was hoping that it will kind of start spreading around, but it's not very healthy. In the back I have some Echinodorus argentinensis, which should actually grow tall and become immersed eventually. Again, it's not feeling very well. It's kind of a, well, not really growing. The other aquatic plants that I have here is some Christmas moss, also known as Tropica Brazilian moss, and in some parts it grows as immersed plants, especially on the driftwood. I also have some Hydrocotyle leucephala, or Brazilian pennywort, and it grows immersed in some places as well. Now about riparian plants. Here I have large Spathiphyllum, also known as peace lily. I have more Spathiphyllum in there, and they grow quite well in this immersed condition, riparian condition. I have two types of pothos, golden pothos and the regular pothos in the back. I have Monstera, two plants of Monstera. That's just a regular Monstera deliciosa. Over there, here I have a Philodendron micans or micans. It's very similar to pothos, but it has different color leaves. And in here I have some fern. I don't know what fern species is that. It wasn't written on the pot when I bought it. And in the corner I have quite a lot of Phytonia, and it actually grows really well. So over here we have Phytonia roots. So now a couple of words about fish. I have here some cardinal tetras and black neon tetras, which are kind of the feature fish of this tank. I also have some apistos and Corydoras in here. You would rarely be able to notice them, but there's quite a bit of Corydoras eggs on the glasses, because they're very active at night usually, and they don't come out very often during the daytime. Yeah, so it's not particularly heavily stocked. Most of the fish are really small, and they're really enjoying these blackwater conditions because it's very natural for them. So I hope you find this video useful, and I hope that I got you motivated to create something like that, to create a blackwater biotope in your home, because this is a very natural looking and very aesthetic and very harmoniously pleasing type of aquarium that I personally have enjoyed for many years. I've had different blackwater types tanks throughout the years, and they've been all amazing, and that's certainly probably the best type of aquarium that you can create for your fish, especially if you keep fish that originate from black. So definitely leave your comments in the comments section and ask any questions you might have, and I will see you soon.